Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Um, again, or this is or still whatever. This is Bob with Simplex IT. I'd like to welcome you all here to our second in a series of three webinars on Office 365. What we're trying to do is just to give companies who have either recently signed up for it or who are considering it really answers to the big three questions, namely, what the heck is it, which we handled last week, hopefully. What are the licensing? How do you go about purchasing it? And then number three is going to be next week, and that's going to be where we talk about how to implement it and all that. Now, I'm going to be very clear here that there's going to be some technical stuff, but for the most part, this is about the product and the licensing in terms of purchasing it. So we may talk a little bit about the technical stuff in terms of what your requirements or needs are, but by and large, this is really going to be a non-techie thing. So, any questions? Go ahead and just enter them into the conversation area, and you know, you know me, I'll change topics at the drop of a hat. So, anywho, and I see Patty just added the comment that showed the phone number to call and conference ID in case you can't hear. And we had one person last week who had trouble seeing the display. If you're having issues with that, hopefully this will still be valuable. If not, probably by tomorrow afternoon we'll have this up on YouTube. And if you're registered, we'll send you an email with a link to it. And I apologize for any issues. Okay, let's move on because that's what we do here. So blah blah blah. Simplex IT, we're wonderful. We want to work with your organization. We want to be your IT department. We do a number of things as far as both the IT. We also do a lot of work with companies as far as their SQL, more from a DBA standpoint. And then Patty heads up our project management area, which actually both of those have to do with Office 365 a little bit, as we will see. Um, as mentioned before, we are a cloud champion for several years. We're a tier one champion SMB partner, and I keep saying this, I still don't know what that means. I can't get anyone at Microsoft to actually give me a clear-cut definition. We've been doing it. We work with about 100 companies, which is the prior version of Office 365, and so we've been very successful at that. We've got actually tomorrow we have a webinar that Patty will be doing on OneNote 2016, and OneNote is one of those products that I'll be honest, I still don't use it, but I look at it and I'm like, wow, I really should. It's that unsung hero. I know Kevin here and Patty both live and die by OneNote. The flexibility, especially using it in an Office 365 environment where you can use the same OneNote document between different devices and it synchronizes is really cool. The other couple things that we've added since last week is April 14th, we're going to be doing, this will be Patty and I, we're going to be actually showing about how collaboration works with Office 365, especially with Office 2016. So those will be useful. And April 9th, can't say too much about this yet, but Simplex IT's Night Out at the Movies. If you remember a couple of years ago, we basically got a movie theater and showed a movie. Kind of like that, not quite the same, but we'll see. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Here's some information. So let's get to the topic. First of all, if you had to make a huge definition of what's the difference between Microsoft and Apple, Apple has one way of doing anything, one product for doing anything, and that's it. And it's all their flavor, their method, and they're usually very, very well thought out, very well defined, but it's very easy to make a decision as to what you're getting in the Apple world. It's this. Microsoft, if you just take a look at how many ways there are to copy a file, drag and drop left click, drag and drop right click, copy, left click, control C. You get the idea. And they're the same way in terms of licensing. When it talks about purchasing the attributes of Microsoft Office 365 licensing, they give you all these different options, which are more confusing than they need to be. Because if you actually get down to what are your needs, if you have a usually relatively quick conversation, you'll at least figure out what licenses you'll need and what subscriptions you need, and then figure out how to go that route. But it is confusing because of all of the options, and you just have to be a little bit patient when you're going through the process. So keep that in mind. So the three questions that we're going to cover today are, number one is, what kind of organization are you? And then what licensing method do you want to use, meaning which way do you want to actually purchase it? What relationship do you want to have with Microsoft and or a third party? That would be us, or the like. And then what products do I actually need? The interesting thing is the first two questions have nothing to do with the product. They have to do only with the licensing. All right, and that's a very critical point, that it's the products themselves are not dependent upon the first two questions. So, what type of organization am I? For licensing purposes, and by the way, all of these bullet points and these items are simplified. There are nuances that add to it, and these are aimed at the small to medium organization, and that would be, by Microsoft's definition, is now 500 seats or lower. Okay, so that's the size organization we're talking about. But they have specific licensing. If you don't know, everybody is business. Okay. However, education has some free and heavily discounted licensing. Nonprofit has ridiculously free and discounted licensing. Government has slightly discounted pricing. So it's the exact same product, whether you buy it, although sometimes they give them different names because they can. A nonprofit purchasing a Office 365, I think instead of an E3, it's a K3 or L3. It's a different letter 3. Instead of them paying $20 a month, they pay like $7 a month. And for just the email and the E1, and we'll talk about what those are, it's actually free for nonprofits. You have to go through some hoops, but it's very much worthwhile. So you need to first make sure which of those four groups you are, and then Microsoft has some ways to go through each of those. We can help you on all four of those, so if you're an organization and not sure how to go forward with any of those, just let us know. Happy to set you in the right direction. And again, it's based on what type of organization you are. The next issue, so that one's easy. What licensing method? So how are we purchasing? And remember, these are subscriptions. So you're basically purchasing for a period of time, either blocked out by months or blocked out by a year or years. How are you going to pay Microsoft or a third party between you and Microsoft? How are you going to pay Microsoft for these services? Okay, there's basically three ways of doing it. The original one that's been with it since day one is the advisor. That's where you go to Microsoft's website, you sign up, you give them a credit card, you've bought the licensing, and you've agreed to pay for it either annually up front or every month for the next 12 months. Okay? That's the simplest way to do it, and that's through Microsoft. And we'll talk about more specifics on this, but Microsoft is really trying to get people away from that for reasons we'll talk about in a moment. The open subscription. The open subscription is where you're purchasing it through a reseller. And by the way, when I say partner, the partner could be some fantastic organization such as simplex-it, or it could be a larger group like GoDaddy or CDW. Okay? The partner is essentially that midwife, okay, man in the middle, who has that relationship that's taking your money and hopefully giving you product in return. The open is very similar to the open license agreements that companies have used for years to purchase their traditional server license, desktop license, office license, all that kind of fun stuff. And it usually has the biggest discount potential. Whether or not the company gives that discount to you is up to you and whoever you're buying it from. But it usually has the biggest discount potential. However, it also has the least amount of flexibility. And then there's last and not least, CSP. The CSP model was introduced by Microsoft about this time last year, although it really wasn't working terribly well, in my opinion, until about 6 months ago. And that is essentially where not only you purchase through the partner, again, like us, like simplex-it, but you actually are going to go through that partner or their reseller for Office 365 support. Okay? And we'll go through these one at a time. And when you first purchase Office 365, you should really try to decide for your organization which of these three license models you're going to use. They all have strengths, they all have weaknesses. But up front, you should just try to get this get this in your head which way you want to go. And again, any questions you guys have, just go ahead. So let's talk about Advisor. You don't need a third party for anything. You don't need us for anything. You pay Microsoft directly. So if you want to set it up, you want to install it, you want to configure it, you want to manage it, you want to maintain it, you want to do everything, you're paying Microsoft directly. There's no middle person. There's no markups. There's no markdowns. That's it. You pay Microsoft directly. It's usually through a credit card. And you pay either monthly or annually. There's no difference in the money. So if you're getting a $5 a month subscription, you can either pay $5 a month for 12 months or you can pay $60. You can add licenses, and this is one of the key things is when you're going to be changing. If you add licenses,
Doreen is now joining.
Oddly enough, Microsoft will let you add licensing without taking and more than willing to take your money. What a shock. But it is harder to remove licensing. It's basically remove licenses. So if you originally buy 10 licenses, whether you're paying monthly or annually, and 3 months into it you only need 8, you can't get a credit or remove those 2 licenses without incurring some form of penalty, and depending upon the period of time. There is a penalty as far as removing. If you change the license and upgrade to a bigger license, so I don't need a $5, I need a $20, Microsoft will let you do that. But you have to go through Microsoft for the support, and their support system is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. All right, so that's the Advisor. Okay. Open. Open is the best of times and the worst of times. Open, you purchase through a reseller. Again, like us. It's an annual fee. So you will buy this many licenses. I will buy 10 licenses and I will have those licenses for a year. And it's an annual fee only. Microsoft will give a higher discount to the reseller. Whether or not they turn that over to you or not, that's up to you. For example, Microsoft last year, prior to June 30th, between May and June, gave about a 20% discount for the first year subscription. So, and we actually turned that over, and we had some clients who saved a good chunk of money by switching over to Open. Okay. Now, here's the problem. When you buy those 20 licenses, you have those 20 licenses. That's it. There's no changing, there's no upgrading, there's no decreasing. And if you decided you need a 21st or a 22nd license, in order to keep on this program, you have to add that license through the Open agreement, which is a pain in the butt. It can be done, but it takes, because of the process of license agreements, it takes about 24 to 48 hours just to add a license. Support is still provided by Microsoft. Even though you're going through a reseller, the end product, meaning Office 365, is supported by Microsoft. Okay? Cool. Now we have the CSP. This, by far and away, is what Microsoft is trying to get partners like us to do. And we've got about 30 of our clients that are on the CSP model. So the CSP model is purchased through a Microsoft partner, and that partner could again be CDW or GoDaddy. All right, but you're purchasing and you're paying the partner directly. You're paying monthly or annually. If I buy, so I purchase through our reseller, which is the way most people would do. So a customer contacts us. We then purchase the license from our reseller. That reseller then purchases it through Microsoft. Okay, and that gets into some tier modeling and all that. We get a discount if we buy the license annually. So, well, we make a small amount of money. We get a discount either way, but we get a larger discount if we go annually. So you should be able to negotiate. Oh, great, we have potential customers on the line. Oh, no, seriously, you should be able to negotiate some form of discount for 365 subscriptions, definitely if you're paying annually. Now, we're not talking about a huge. We're talking about 5% or something along those lines. But that's available. It's not available in Advisor, and you don't have a choice on the open license. Support, now this is the odd part. Support is provided by the Microsoft partner, meaning if you purchase a CSP license, you can't contact Microsoft for support. You contact us or our reseller, which in this case is Ingram Micro. They have the support requirements for Office 365, and then, if need be, they'll ramp it up, or we'll ramp it up to Microsoft. And I want to be real clear. The kind of issues that these come into play is usually there's outages or corruption on the data or something that really requires, it may happen in our case and we've got about 5,000 seats, I think, that we're supporting on Office 365. And I would say it probably has happened about maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I'll say 4 or 5 times a year, where we need to bring Microsoft into the play on this. Okay. But it's a different way of doing the support. Now, the CSP model is still relatively new. So, for example, if you are using Microsoft CRM online, the customer relationship management tools online, those are not available through the CSP model yet. So not everything is. So you can check on that. Microsoft makes incentives available fairly readily for new customers to either join up with Office 365 or to increase their licensing or the like. Here's the thing. What you need to look out for is Microsoft will always give, if they give incentives, they will give their incentives to, number one, the new stuff that they really want people joining in on, and or they will give out incentives towards the end of their fiscal year, which is June 30th, and or the end of the calendar year. And it's usually the fiscal year is the biggie. That's where they're just really trying hard to sign up new business. So, for example, I would not, if you are just looking to upgrade to Office 365 and you're not sure when, I would honestly tell you, wait a month. Look for it in August, because August is usually when they'll start announcing their new programs and the like. Now, Microsoft does have a new product or a new incentive program called Fast Track, which gives up to between $15, $25, and $50 per seat back to the partner and or customer, or helps with the migration tools for over 50 seats. So that's out there now, and I'll tell you right now, it is one of the most convoluted. The terms and conditions that Microsoft's putting on the partners are very weird, and it's odd because what Microsoft is doing for this promotion for this year, which is unusual, is they're actually making it so this promotion is only for subscriptions that include more than email, and only if the customer at the end of it is actually using the product. So they actually look for how many people have done a Skype for Business meeting or the like. It's odd. I'm not quite sure why they're doing it that way, but they are. So But the thing is, though, is that when you talk to a Microsoft partner, you need to ask them what kind of incentives are there, or are there any, and are there going to be any in the near future? And by the way, this is true with all Microsoft licensing, server, desktop, 365. However, it is not necessarily true for like nonprofits. Okay, so you need to be a little bit careful on those guys. So, any questions on the CSP? Okay. So which are the best? Advisor is the easiest to purchase and implement. Like I say, you just go to the website, you choose your stuff, you put in the credit card, you get a couple emails telling you, hey, you're ready to go. Boom, done. Absolutely the easiest. Um, if you don't, so if you're looking for ease, and if you don't want to work with third parties like us, you wound me. I personally take that hard, but I understand. Open. It's the best pricing. We're talking about 1 to 3% discount usually, although your mileage may vary. If you are really not expecting your numbers to change much, it's pretty much solid. We bought 50 licenses and we're expecting 50 licenses. Then Open works relatively well for you. Okay. The CSP. The CSP can definitely be better pricing than Advisor. And one other thing I neglected to mention on the CSP, you can pay monthly or annually with a possible discount, and with the CSP model, you can change, add, remove licenses without penalty. So in other words, if you're in the third month and you need to either remove a couple licenses, add a couple licenses, change a couple licenses, you pretty much your monthly fee ends at a prorated rate when it changes, and then the other stuff gets added at a prorated rate when it adds. Okay? All three of these are 12-month agreements. The CSP, however, you can cancel without penalty. The Advisor and Open, the Open you paid up ahead of time and you just contributed. If you cancel 6 months into it, you just contributed 6 months worth of it to the Microsoft retirement party. So, by and large, if you are comfortable working with the reselling company, the CSP at this point, I think, is the best. And if you already have either Advisor or Open, there are paths to move over to CSP. Depending upon the complexity, those paths are easy or they're a pain in the butt. But I want to be very clear here. On all three of these, it's the exact same product. The servers are the same, the software is the same, the usage is, everything else is the same. It's just simply how you're acquiring those products and those subscriptions. Okay. Microsoft is at the point now when they look at our productivity in terms of how many customers we bring on and all that, they don't pay. If we bring on a customer through the Advisor program, Microsoft literally doesn't care. They don't view that as productivity on our part. It's only the Open and the CSP. Now, Microsoft also has incentives they give back to us, kind of like, car dealership. That's our invoice price, so we're losing $2,000 when we sell this car. Aren't we wonderful? Yeah, right. Microsoft gives us incentives as well along the same line, but they're only going to give us incentives for customers we bring on board with either Open or CSP. Okay. Now let's talk about the product. Like I said, you've got 6 different ways to Sunday, and you just think of this in terms of it's all about bundling. We're going to bundle different attributes and different pieces together in terms of what is needed. And first of all, we have 2 lines of product or collection of product. We have the business, which also has been called small business, versus enterprise. And it used to be that you couldn't mix and match. Now you can mix and match till the cows come home. So you can have as many, clients or licenses of as many different options as you want to based on your needs. So if you have some people who need these features or these sets, some people who need those features, those sets, you can have 3 of these licenses, 4 of these licenses, so on and so forth. Okay. So the business versus enterprise. Business is aimed at small and medium organizations, right? Originally, and I think still, the business has a limit of 300 and 350. We'll get to this in a second. How many licenses you can have in one organization. Enterprise is more powerful versions of the same tools, and we'll talk about that in a second. And the enterprise, first of all, if you need Microsoft Access as part of your Office, then you want to go enterprise. If you want built-in email encryption, compliance, discovery, that kind of thing, then the enterprise or the E-plans are going to be more appropriate for you. Okay. This is a worksheet that kind of shows, and the first thing is, so we've got business and we've got enterprise. And there are 3 products here and there are 3 products here. So we've got business only, or excuse me, business essentials, business premium, Pro Plus, E1, E3. Of course, it makes perfect sense how they're naming these things. The business is for a company that only needs licensing for Office. That's it. Pro Plus is for a company that needs licensing for Office Professional, meaning that we're including Microsoft Access, or needs remote desktop licensing. And if you don't know what that is, you probably don't need it. Okay. Other than that, these are the same. So this is for a company. Business and Pro Plus are for companies that just are looking to keep up to date with their Office licensing. Okay. Although you can see they both also include OneDrive for Business. Business Essentials and Enterprise E1, those are for companies that don't need Office. So as you can see, for those guys, we're going to include the web app of Office, OneDrive for Business, the email mailbox, Skype for Business, SharePoint Online, Yammer, Content Discovery, all of that good fun stuff. So they basically are getting, and I'm staying away from the bottom lines for a minute, they're basically for Business Essentials and the E1, they are getting Skype for Business, or excuse me, the Exchange Mailbox, Skype for Business, SharePoint Online, and OneDrive for Business. So they get those 4 things in both the $5 and the $8. Okay? Then we have the Business Premium and the E3. That's a combination. In the business side, it's the combination of business and business essentials. And in the case of the enterprise, it's Pro Plus and E1. It essentially is all that stuff plus Office. All right. Now, when I say Office throughout all these, I am talking about the license of Office that you install on your computer. I'm not talking about web apps. Actually, all of these, that's Office Online, and all of these licenses include that. I am talking about the thing that runs Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel on your desktop. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Office. And for either the Business Premium, Pro Plus, or E3, any of the licenses that includes that Office, number one, you'll be able to upgrade to the next versions of Office every time a new version comes out, and you will be able to, whoever has that license assigned to them, that person can install Office on up to 5 devices. So if they've got a Mac, an iPad, an Android tablet, a Windows tablet, and a Windows desktop, they can install Microsoft Office on all 5 of those devices with that one license. Now, there's no other Microsoft licensing that gives you that kind of flexibility for that kind of price. So one of the things you think about is whether or not you have employees who have multiple devices. Now, to be clear, you can go ahead and let's say you're looking to migrate your email. You can go ahead and look at the desktops and say, hey, look, half of our people or 2/3 of our people have Outlook. They're okay. So you get licensing without Office for 2/3 of the people, and get licensing with Office for the remaining third. Mix and match is absolutely fine. You only have a couple of people who need Microsoft Access. Cool. A couple people get the E3. The rest get the Business Premium. Okay? Any questions? Now, almost all of these products can also be purchased individually, meaning that if all you want is Exchange, and we'll talk about that specifically, or all you want is Skype for Business, or all you want is Skype for Business would be another one. All you want is the OneDrive for Business, whatever. You can purchase those licenses individually. And you'll notice that over on the E side, we have these dots down here. Shared computer activation, that's for when you've got 2 or 3 people who are both using the same computer, that we can activate the licensing in a shared way there. You also have compliance and encryption. So if you're looking at either some kind of archiving, by what I'm saying of archiving, everybody with Exchange Online or any Office 365 licensing, everybody gets the ability to do online archiving and the like. It's just the whole discovery process and the like. And I see we're running low on time here. So, top questions to ask. Number 1, do you want email? And then if you need email, do you need unlimited archive and discovery? If the answer is yes and yes, you want E3. If the answer is yes and no, then it could be on the business side. Okay. Collaboration, cloud storage. Do you need updated copies of Office? Do you need Microsoft Access, remote desktop? By just simply answering these questions, we can nail down which version you're actually most interested in. I just wanted to have one of the slides from last week because it's just they look so happy. Exchange Online. Again, especially if you're looking at comparing, this is not part of what I just showed you. What I showed you here, this is Exchange right here, email, calendar. That's Exchange Online. That's your mailbox. That one license, which is $4 a month, it wasn't on that list. That Exchange Online, that's your email migration price. Everything else, all of the other licenses include features and functions that you don't have with your current email environment, if you've got a current Exchange email environment. So when you're pricing it out, make sure that you keep that in mind. And it includes web and mobile app device access through Outlook, access to your email through Outlook. Outlook isn't included in this licensing. Spam filtering, 50 gig mailboxes, and specialty items. There's a ton of things you can do with it that don't cost additional money, although at first pass you might think it does. And that's really the key thing on the licensing. The one other thing I want to bring up is not many people realize, because Microsoft doesn't bother telling anybody, that there are additional things that you can license through Office 365. Visio, which is a great charting tool, you can actually license your Visio professional licensing through Office 365. And BI, and we're going to do some webinars on this probably in a couple of months. The BI stuff is an unsung hero that you can do as well through an Office 365 subscription. Project management, Patty can tell you, this is the unsung hero. The ability to implement a project server environment for a small, medium company, which used to be 15 grand for just the hardware and software implementation. And instead now we're talking about under $50 a month licensing for the project management, project server, all of that is just ridiculously underutilized. And then finally, late last year, they added phone services in what's called their E5 subscription. I still feel that it has not yet been out long enough to warrant early adoption, but it's certainly something we can talk about if someone's interested in that. So what should you do? I'm going to wrap up now. if there aren't any questions, remember next week on March 15th, hopefully I got that one ready. I got that one right. We're actually going to be meeting at the Microsoft Store in Beechwood. We still will be broadcasting it online like this, but we're going to be talking about implementing Office 365. How to go about, what are the strategies of implementation for Office 365. And please RSVP. If you go to the Microsoft Store, we'll be having some, have some food there, all that good fun stuff. And as I point out, if you're interested, if you have over 50 users especially, love to talk to you about, well, love to talk to you anyway, because I'm lonely. But we'd love to talk to you about helping with some of the incentives that Microsoft has available that's offered to partners, and we usually turn over much, if not all of that, over to our customers as incentives to working for us. Okay, well, we hope to see you then. Again, we'll send an email alert when this thing is up and online. And otherwise, thank you very much for attending and hope this was worthwhile.